What you do see at Gobekli Tepe is pillars with carvings in relief on them.
Three-dimensional.
Three-dimensional carvings which stand out. That means that all of the stone around the carving had to be cut away. It wasn't a matter of incising the carving into the stone. You had to remove the stone around it and leave it standing proud.
Much more sophisticated.
And it's much more sophisticated. And it's on the oldest so far identified pillar in Gobekli Tepe, which maybe Jamie can call up. It's pillar 43 in enclosure D at Gobekli Tepe, which is... Any chance of getting that up? It's a remarkable piece of ancient art. It's definitely 11,600 years old. So often, the Tepe telegrams, for example, will show it. That's on the right there, another wonderful piece of relief carving. But there, pillar 43, this vulture is in exactly the position of the constellation of Sagittarius. And the disk over its wing suggests the sun against the background of the constellation of Sagittarius. Below it, we have a scorpion, so like the constellation of Scorpio, and roughly in the right place. Above it, we have a serpent descending, a bit like Ophiuchus. It seems to speak to a knowledge of astronomy at an ancient time. Again, it's controversial, but a lot of work has been done on this. But the point is, the carving of that is highly sophisticated at 11,600 years old.
That creature, whatever it is, Jamie, that one that's sort of black and white, that image in the center says Visual Arts Cork. Yeah, click on that one. That one's amazing.
It's amazing. They cut away the whole pillar to leave that creature there, which itself is hard to identify. Is it a crocodile? We found something very similar in Peru, as a matter of fact.
Well, the proportions are off for a crocodile. It looks more like a cat.
Yeah, I think it looks more like some kind of feline, but exactly what creature it is
something
hard,
with a tail.
Yeah, it's hard to identify.
When, this is all so interesting to me. And when these people are trying to date this to 11,800 years ago and say that people only had stone tools, how do they speculate that these people did this stuff?
You can do stuff with stone tools.
So they used harder stone to carve this stone.
That's the argument.
And is there evidence of these stones?
No, not that I'm aware of. There are some so-called pounding stones, but I find it difficult to see how pounding away could have created this very fine result. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. It's the same with the incredible work that you find at Cuzco and Sacsayhuaman in Peru. Again, they're not supposed to have had, this is supposedly recent, I think it's much older, the Incas, not supposed to have had metal tools. They're supposed to have done all the work with stone tools. I think it's a reach. I think we're looking at a technology we don't understand.
So one of them looks like a wild boar, that one to the left, Pinterest.
It
looks like
some
sort of wild boar. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So that's identifiable, which is interesting when you look at the other ones that aren't that identifiable.
Yeah. Some of them are identifiable.
Yeah, I don't know what's that one supposed to be.
That's a fox.
A fox.
But interestingly, coming out of it are these streamers. And my colleague Martin Sweatman from the University of Edinburgh has suggested that is representing meteors coming down from the sky. Those streamers out of the tail of the fox, and the fox was a constellation.
What's that little fellow right there, Jamie? It says in Turkey, right to the left of your cursor. Yeah, right there. What's that?
A human form.
Is that another one from somewhere else?
No. That's. I'm not sure which site that is from. It could be from Gobekli Tepe, judging by the feline figures beside it. Let's find out. Ad blocker.
Oh, you gotta subscribe.
Yeah.
Oh, is the ad blocker?
Too complicated.
Is it letting you go back? Okay. Yeah. Well, how do they? We have those images from ancient Sumer, which are 6,000 years old or so, that show what appears to be the solar system. So how do they?
Well, first of all, let's remember ancient Sumer was in Mesopotamia.
Yes.
And Mesopotamia, it's a Greek word, means between the rivers. And the rivers referred to are the Tigris and the Euphrates. And where is Gobekli Tepe? right between the headwaters of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers.
Here it is. Hard to grasp relief of man holding his phallus found in Turkey.
Which site? Sanliurfa is the big city nearby. That's where you need to go if you want to go to Gobekli Tepe. Not saying which site it was.
Can I see that image again?
It could be Karahan Tepe, where I've been, but I haven't seen that figure. That's.
It looks like he's covering his phallus, like he's embarrassed, or maybe he's pregnant.
Yeah.
Look, maybe it's the first pregnant man.
We don't know. We don't know what it means.
I don't know what it.
But he's definitely holding his dick.
It
that's
seems
for
like
sure.
it. Seems like maybe he's peeing.
No, somebody
I
else.
mean, what is he doing?
What is he doing? I don't know, and we don't know. The problem is no written texts have come down to us from that time. So
Right.
everything, in a sense, is speculation. What isn't speculation is the dating. I have grave doubts about carbon dating in many cases, because carbon dating doesn't date stone. It dates organic materials. So the notion that you can date a megalithic site with carbon dating is questionable right away. But what tends to be done is that you look for a piece of organic material that is so associated with the megalith you want to date that you can say or propose that they come from the same period of time. I have that problem with the huge Moai statues in Easter Island. They're not carbon dated. What's carbon dated is the platforms they stand on. And there's a lot to suggest that those platforms are much later than the original statues, and the statues were re-erected on those platforms. In the case of Gobekli Tepe, one of the very special things about it is that it was deliberately buried. They ran that site for about 1,000 years, from 11,600 to, say, 10,600 years ago, and then they closed it down. And they went to great effort to fill up all the enclosures with rubble and to create a hill over the top of it. And that's why Gobekli Tepe then remained untouched for the next 10,000 years. There's no danger of contamination with younger carbon from a later culture. The fact that they found carbon in enclosure 40, in enclosure D, right by Pillar 43, dated to 11,600 years ago, does firmly connect that place to 11,600 years ago. There are later dates from Gobekli Tepe. It wasn't all built in one go, but it stopped around 1,000 or maybe 1,200 years after it started, as though they'd achieved what they wanted to achieve. The population had all become agriculturalists. We move on into the Holocene, into the modern age, and it's that moment of transition following an enormous cataclysm that really fascinates me.